Hey guys, welcome to Dogforge. My name is Paul and welcome back to our Tasha's Cauldron of Everything series. Do you want more Tasha's and D&D content? Then hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to get the latest on 5e. But now it's time to pull up your hood and blend the crowd, because today we're taking a look at the Soulknife subclass for the rogue. Now the Soulknife is the second of the psionic subclasses we're getting into Cauldron of Everything. The first of which was the Psi Warrior for the Fighter, which you can find in a playlist that we may have on the channel, just saying. And I am personally a big fan and supporter of psionics, and was pleasantly surprised by how the psionic subclasses came out. So the Soulknife himself is revolved around not quite knives made of his own soul, but blades made of psionic energy that protrude from the character's fists as they strike someone. Now this version is a little different from its 5e origins in the Mystic, in that you are not creating weapons that are always there. As we'll get into in the specific feature, these blades only really appear during your actual strike. Just a quick note, based on that art, maybe it's because he's a halfling, but that really does look more like a soul short sword than a soul knife. Anyhow, getting into it. Like all rogue subclasses, we're going to get this at 3rd level. So, psionic power. Now this is basically just saying, like the Psi Warrior, we're going to get our psionic energy die as a resource pool. So, we get a number of psionic energy die equal to twice our proficiency bonus, and they reset on a long rest. Once per short rest, we can also use a bonus action to regain one of those die. Now, the psionic energy dice, which I shall refer to as psi die to save my voice from here on out, start out as a d6 and they increase as you level up. Now, the increases map to your proficiency bonus increases, but they are tied specifically to your rogue level. So at 5th level, it's going to go to a d8. 11th level it's going to go to a d10, and at 17th level it'll go to a d12. And these dice are used to power a lot of your abilities you get through the subclass, although it does not always expend those abilities to use them. So, starting off with the actual abilities we do get, and the first one up is Psi Bolstered Knack. When your non-psionic training fails you, your psionic power can help. If you fail an ability check using a skill or tool with which you have proficiency, you can roll 1 psionic energy die and add the number rolled to the check, potentially turning failure into success. You only expend the die if the roll succeeds. Now that last sentence is really important because it means that you don't really have anything to lose. If it's a check that you care enough about that you're okay expending a resource, then this is really a win-win situation. You either win, and the die roll is high enough to change the outcome of the roll, or you fail, in which case you've lost no resources. I think that this would be an okay ability otherwise, but that last sentence really just knocks this ability up into a great one in my opinion. Next up, Psychic Whispers, and this is basically just telepathy. So as an action, you can choose one or more creatures you can see up to your proficiency bonus, and then roll 1 psionic energy die. For a number of hours equal to the number you rolled, the chosen creatures can speak telepathically with you, and you can speak telepathically with them. To send or receive a message, no action required, you and the other creatures must be within 1 mile of each other. A creature can't use this telepathy if you can't speak any languages, or it can't speak any languages, and a creature can end this telepathic communication at any time. You and the creature don't need to speak a common language to understand each other. The first time you use this power after each long rest, you don't expend the psionic energy die. All of the times you use the power, you expend the die. This is also a really powerful version of telepathy. So most of the versions of telepathy we get in the game outside of something like the Spellbearer's telepathic bond, they're typically much shorter range, 30, 60, 120 feet, something like that. And it's usually one-way communication, and usually have to share a language. this completely obliterates all of that. It's not quite at will. That is important. This is a bond you need to establish beforehand. That being said, it's a bond that you initially can set up with 2 creatures, and very quickly you're going to be able to encompass the entire party within this. And you get to do it for a number of hours equal to your proficiency die, your psionic die. And that's on average going to be about 3 hours. That's a pretty large amount of time, and the first time you establish this bond, you don't even burn the die. 1 mile of range without needing line of sight is fantastic. This really facilitates just the kind of infiltration and subterfuge gameplay that you would be really hoping to undertake as a rogue in general. And it's just entirely fantastic. As you can tell, I'm a big fan of this, the Soulknife so far, and that tends to continue. Just a quick note though, whilst you are establishing a bond with multiple creatures, that bond is with you, not each other. So they can talk to you, you can talk to them. They cannot talk to each other even though they are wrapped up in this bond. You have to act as an intermediary for any messages that go through. So moving on, we have Psychic Blades, and this is probably what you're here for, as it's the whole shtick of the subclass. So you can manifest your psionic power as shimmering blades of psychic energy. In previous versions of this, it was scintillating blades, but that was probably too hard to keep saying and typing. Whenever you take the attack action, you can manifest a psychic blade from your free hand and make the attack with that blade. So already we're qualifying that we need to have nothing in our hand, and that includes wearing a shield on that arm if you do get proficiency from somewhere. This magic blade is a simple melee weapon with the finesse and thrown properties. It has a normal range of 60 feet and no long range, and on a hit it deals psychic damage equal to 1d6 plus the ability modifier you used for the roll. So, important things straight off the bat, it is a simple, not a martial weapon. That can be important for some things, such as if you wanted to multiclass this with a monk for some reason, it would automatically count under the raw rules for a monk weapon, as it is a simple weapon. It is finesse, so of course it is going to qualify for your sneak attack and allow you to use dexterity. And it is a thrown weapon. And it's important to remember that when you use a thrown weapon, you are making a ranged attack, but it is not a ranged weapon. Just a little distinction. It's also important here to note that it has no long range, so 60 feet is the cutoff point for how far you can use this. Any further and you will automatically miss. So straight off the bat, this is essentially like using, I guess the art was somewhat appropriate, because this is like using a hybrid between a short sword and a dagger. You're getting that d6 damage die, but you're also getting the thrown property, but I mean for a dagger that's only 20 feet normally. So that's fantastic, and the gravy keeps going from here. The blade vanishes immediately after it hits or misses its target, leaving no mark on its target if it deals damage. So this is perfect for your roleplay stealth assassinations. And after you attack with the blade, you can make a melee or ranged weapon attack with a second psychic blade as a bonus action on the same turn, provided your other hand is free to create it. The damage die of this bonus attack is 1d4 instead of 1d6. This is fantastic. So, on the surface, this just facilitates 2-weapon fighting for the rogue, which is a very common tactic to try and ensure that you get your sneak attack damage off. However, one thing to note is that the language of this ability does actually allow you to add your dex modifier to it, which is basically like getting the free 2-weapon fighting style just mixed in. You do take that bump of going from a d6 down to a d4, but that's only 1 damage on average, whilst your dex is probably going to be bringing 3 to 5 damage. So straight away you're getting a good damage type, a good range distance if you want to engage in range combat, and you're getting quite a lot of damage. And straight off the bat, certainly in tier 1, but also pushing into tier 2, this is looking like it's going to be one of the higher damage rogues. The only thing that off the top of my head really competes for this at the moment is something like an Arcane Trickster making use of cantrips and Shadowblade. So, moving on to 9th level, and we get Soul Blades. Your Psychic Blades are now an expression of your Psi-infused soul, giving you these powers that use your psionic energy dice. Homing Strikes. If you make an attack roll with your Psychic Blades and miss the target, you can roll one of your psi die and use the number rolled and add it to the attack roll. If this causes the attack to hit, you expend the psionic energy dice. That's, again, so this is basically like precision attack from the Battlemaster, except you only burn the die if you succeed. That's fantastic. This subclass overall is so much more efficient with its use of psi die than the Psi Warrior is, that I think it would be really fun to play without really worrying that you're going to burn through all your dice very quickly. And then next up, also at 9th level, you get Psychic Teleportation. Personally, I would have thought Homing Strikes would have been enough for this level, but the fact that we get 2 abilities here is pretty great. So, as a bonus action, you manifest one of your Psychic Blades, expend one of your psi die, and roll it. You throw the blade at an unoccupied space you can see, up to a number of feet equal to 10 times the number you rolled. You then teleport to that space and the blade vanishes. This is basically like a unpredictable distance Misty Step. You know, at the level you get this, your psi die is... Yeah, so at the level you get this, your psi die is a d8, so that's going to be an average of a bonus action 40 feet teleport. And, you know, there's one Overwatch character that strongly reminds me of the Mexican hacker one. Cannot remember for the life of me her name, but it is very cool imagery, and it gives you something concrete that you can YouTube and show people to go, look, this is how I do this. Level 9, another strong level. Level 13, and we're going to get Psychic Veil. You weave a veil of psychic static to mask yourself. As an action, you magically become invisible, along with anything you are wearing or carrying. For 1 hour or until you dismiss this effect, no action required. The invisibility ends early after you deal damage to a creature or you force it to make a saving throw. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you spend a psi die. So, we're getting built in a free use of this ability. It's fantastic. And on the surface, there's probably just like... It probably just looks like invisibility, the spell. It is better. For one, it's not strictly a spell, so it doesn't have all of the necessary baggage with it. It does specify that it is magically invisible, so anti-magic fields and the like would still affect you. However, it doesn't say when you attack somebody it ends. It says when you damage them. So you can still attack someone at advantage because you're an unseen attacker unless they have something like blind sight. And unless you hit, you remain invisible, which means that you can still attempt to hide if you want. So again, this is really rolling into the efficiency of this rogue subclass. There's no real downside so far to trying things, because most of their abilities don't, burn you, so to speak, unless they succeed. And that's a really great design choice that makes this a very potent and effective rogue. But moving on to our final subclass ability, at 17th level we're going to get Rend Mind. You can sweep your Psychic Blades directly through a creature's mind. When you use your Psychic Blades to deal sneak attack damage to a creature, you can force that tag to make a Wisdom saving throw. That DC is going to be 8 plus your Prof bonus plus your Dex modifier. If the save fails, the tag is stunned for 1 minute. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect itself as a success. Once you use this feature, You cannot do so again until you long rest, unless you burn 3 psi-die to use it again. Oh, where to start with this? This is a very powerful capstone. You know, stunned for up to a minute. That's fantastic. It's an actionless rider on your attack, kind of like Stunning Strike is. This is basically Stunning Strike on steroids. That's what this is. However, unlike the Monk, it keys off of your Dex modifier, and that's one somewhat unusual thing here. The Psi Warrior is keyed off of Intelligence. The Mystic in UA was keyed off of Intelligence, but the Soulknife doesn't really use Intelligence whatsoever. You can still dump Intelligence if you want, you know, and play it as a natural ESP-like ability instead of actual purposeful mental training, and assign that to a more commonly used stat like Constitution or Wisdom. And you're still going to be able to have a very high, you know, DC for this ability if you eventually get there. So I'm really happy with that ability, and of course if you do manage to stun them, you just set them up for even more punishment on subsequent turns. It's absolutely amazing, and that kind of sums up my overall thoughts for the Soulknife. It is a really great subclass. Now, I've seen some criticism for the Soulknife online. I personally don't really understand it. The concerns, I guess I'll call them, are that the Soulknife may not scale very well because they cannot utilize magic weapons like other rogues. That is technically true. You cannot use your Soulknife specific abilities, the ones that use your psychic blades, with a magic weapon. However, I'm just going to throw out there that there are still quite a few abilities that don't use your psychic blades. Like, for example, if you found a really sweet flame tongue short sword, there was absolutely nothing stopping you still using your Psybolstered Knack, Psychic Whispers, and Psychic Teleportation. As long as your other hand is free to throw the blade, that's fine. Psychic Veil as well. About 50 to 60% of this subclass's abilities actually aren't reliant on using the Psychic Blades. So you can, in fact, use magic items if you want, but one of the key reasons that a rogue would want a magic weapon to begin with is purely to overcome resistance and immunity to non-magical BPS damage, which is a thorn in the side of many martials. And this rogue does not have that inherent flaw. You are doing psychic damage immediately from level 3, and whilst yes, that can be inconvenient if you are fighting primarily constructs or something, it is still better in the majority of situations. And to be honest, if you are going to a campaign where constructs are going to be really prevalent, that should really be a conversation your DM has with you, where they explain that you might not be as effective or get to use them as much as you would like. Overall, I think this is a very well-designed subclass. I think every time it gets features, those features are solid and usable every day. So, obviously, I'm really happy about this, but, you know, that's me. What do you think about the Soulknife? Let us know in the comments section down below. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and whilst you're there, hit that subscribe button and notification bell for more D&D and Tasha's content. My name's Paul. I've probably been a bit too enthusiastic about this subclass, but I'll see you next time at the Forge.